Welcoming to the show, the great Mike Davis. Mike, thanks for spending some time with us. We appreciate it.
I am honored to finally come on your show.
Oh, man, you got to come on more. I talk about you all the time. We talk about the two Mikes, how you and Ben's are really it's in such high demand. You on the lawfare front and him on the deep state. But there really isn't a better commentator than you on lawfare. I watch you on Fox and elsewhere, and I'm like, damn, why didn't I think of that? You always kind of nail it. So my audience is happy to have you. Let me get right to it on this ridiculous trial. First, your thoughts. I'm not a lawyer, but I was an investigator, so I have some experience with juries and cases. But I'm not Matlock here. The time out, they've been out 8.5 hours now. The jury, Mike, in this Trump case. I think that the longer they're out, the better. At least even if they're pretending to deliberate, not making a political decision at this point, I'd rather them pretend than not. What are your thoughts on that? How are you feeling about this as time kind of drags on?
I have no confidence in this trial in New York City. It is a partisan, corrupt, and rigged process against President Trump. You have a Soros-funded Manhattan DA, Alvin Bragg, who campaigns on getting Trump. You have Matthew Colangelo, a senior Obama and Biden political operative, being deployed to Bragg's office to bring this bogus case 7 years after the fact, after the prior Manhattan DA, Cy Vance, a Democrat, the Manhattan U.S. Attorney, the Federal Election Commission, and Bragg himself, who campaigned on getting Trump, thought it was such a silly case that they didn't bring it, that then Colangelo went up there and brought this case. The case is so corrupt. You have this Democrat Manhattan acting justice, Juan Merchan, who illegally donated to Biden and got reprimanded by the New York court system for doing that, whose adult daughter, Lauren, is raising millions of dollars off of this criminal prosecution that over which her father is presiding, this unprecedented case against a former and likely future president, requiring his recusal under New York statute. That's not just me saying that. A former federal Clinton judge from New York City went on Caitlin Collins' show on April 5th on CNN and said he had to recuse. How did Judge Merchan respond to Trump? He retaliated against him and expanded his illegal, unconstitutional gag order. This judge allowed Stormy Daniels, this bimbo porn star, who's changed her story several times, who's been raising money with her Penn's porn site on Twitter, and Michael Cohen, this disbarred, disgraced serial perjurer, convicted felon, embezzler, Michael Cohen, to trash Trump with this irrelevant, unfairly prejudicial evidence. And then you have this jury pool that voted 87% for Joe Biden, and Merchan, Colangelo, and Bragg further rigged the process, the jury selection process, by bouncing people who follow Trump on social media, like the 3 people in Manhattan who follow Trump on Truth, but not bouncing the people who follow Biden. This is a partisan, corrupt, rigged process. And so I expect, even if there are holdout jurors, I think that they're eventually going to break and find them guilty of something. Or even if there's a hung jury, all that means is that they can just put Trump right back in trial with this illegal gag order for the next 3 months instead of on the campaign trail.
Yeah, folks, this is why everybody loves you, Mike. I mean, tell us how you really feel. We can see you're holding back a little bit, and I'd appreciate you opening up a little. You're a little emotionally constipated, so you just got to. No, that was great. That was great. I needed more of that because I agree with you. I guess maybe it's just me holding out hope that the America you and I both passionately love isn't dead, but I agree with you. I have zero faith in the system. On this Cohen thing, there's your legal analysis of this part of it. Well, the defense, this really disturbed me. They did not call Weisselberg, one of the financial bigwigs in the Trump organization. The prosecution did not call Weisselberg. Now, this is an interesting thing here because Cohen, who has no credibility, Michael Cohen, obviously a convicted perjurer, admitted on the stand to stealing from the Trump organization. Cohen's story, the way you cure a really bad witness, as you know, in court, is you bring in someone to buttress the story, put a little concrete around it, right? They had that person. Weisselberg could have come in if the prosecution's theory is right and said, ridiculous theory, but theory is right. And Weisselberg could have said, yes, you're correct. President Trump knew this was about this Stormy thing and was trying to influence the campaign. But they didn't call Weisselberg, Mike. And then not only didn't they call him, then they lied about the reason, saying that, oh, well, Donald Trump had some kind of agreement with him, which there was a carve out for court. So this is really like Stalinist kind of Kim Jong-un type stuff that's going on here.
And that's exactly right. They could have called him very easily, and it didn't matter what Trump's agreement was with them. Even if there weren't a carve-out in that agreement, the prosecutors could have called him and compelled him to come testify. And remember, at the end of the day, that is, there is no crime here. It is not a crime for a businessman to settle a nuisance claim. It's not a crime to put that settlement in your private books as a legal expense. I've been a lawyer for nearly 20 years. What the hell else would you call the settlement of a nuisance claim other than a legal expense? I guess I'm a felon too, because I've been telling clients to call it a legal expense, right? And he put it in his private books, and somehow that was a business bookkeeping violation in his private books, and somehow putting that in his private books in 2017 somehow influenced the election in 2016. And now to make that from a time-barred bookkeeping misdemeanor, they have to come up with a second crime. Well, guess what? This judge instructed the jury that you don't even have to unanimously agree what that second crime is. You can just say, hey, 4 of you think it's a federal election crime, 4 of you think it's a state election crime, 4 of you think Trump's a jerk and you just don't like him. Whatever you come up with, just come up with whatever theory you want. That violates the Supreme Court's decision in Ramos versus Louisiana that my former boss, Neil Gorsuch, just wrote in 2020. It is very clear that the federal government has to have a unanimous jury verdict on all essential elements of a crime, and Ramos versus Louisiana applied that same law to states. And so it is very crystal clear that Judge Juan Merchan, who illegally gagged Trump, who refused to recuse from this case after his daughter's making millions, who's railroaded Trump and violated his due process and equal protection rights at every turn, is now ignoring binding Supreme Court precedent that the jury has to unanimously find the criminal defendant guilty on all essential crimes, which is not happening here.
Yeah, we're talking to Mike Davis, legal commentator. Mike, I know a lot of people are hoping if Donald Trump wins that you'll take a position in the administration. I get that a lot. Just throwing that out there and not asking you to comment on it. But given that you know Justice Gorsuch better than anyone, having worked there, when you look at Justice Gorsuch very specifically, he is an absolute stickler for the Constitution and legal precedent. I mean, the McGirt decision he's as stickler gets. He said that's what it says, and that's what we're doing. So I can't imagine if this case were to go to the Supreme Court, the Trump New York case on due process violations, that a guy like Gorsuch, Alito, and Thomas, I don't know so much about the other ones, but at least those 3 aren't going to be like, are you kidding me? You gave jury instructions that violate a basic Charlie Brown Encyclopedia 101 tenet of the Constitution, which is this jury instruction. Like, we're going to mishmash on stuff and you don't have to be unanimous. That's a basic tenet of any American citizen's due process.
Well, I would say to your first part, I can't get confirmed to anything because I'm too charming. So I'm not going to be the attorney general. I keep joking that I'm going to be the viceroy. And I think you would make a perfect gallows master general for me, because we will not be accountable to
I'll do it.
Congress.
Done.
When I'm the vice president. You are perfect. You're the perfect guy.
I love it.
That's number one. And number two, I clerked for Gorsuch twice. Once when he first went on the 10th Circuit in Denver back in 2006, and then I was this decrepit old law clerk in 2017 when he first went on the Supreme Court. And Justice Gorsuch has had the same judicial philosophy long before Trump came onto the scene. He's always feared the government and government power. And he understood that if the government can use that power to trample the rights of criminal defendants, we are toast. He worried about a politicized and weaponized justice system long before Trump came onto the scene. You can read that in his opinions, and it's a consistent judicial philosophy. You cannot let corrupt partisan prosecutors rig the criminal justice system against President Trump. He is a billionaire, former and likely future president. And if they can do this to Trump, Just imagine what they can do to the rest of us. And we don't even have to imagine it. They're not only going after Trump, they're going after his top aides like Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro, who's sitting in jail right now. They're going after his attorneys like Jeff Clark and John Eastman. They're going after his January 6th supporters, including little old ladies who trespassed onto the Capitol lawn and took selfies. They're going after parents outraged by gender chaos and the resulting rapes in high school bathrooms. They're going after little old Christian ladies praying outside of abortion clinics. They're putting them in prison under the FACE Act while they give amnesty to Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, James Biden, every scumball, sleazebag, corrupt Biden, except for the 6-year-old granddaughter who they finally acknowledged. They're going out, they're giving amnesty to BLM, to Antifa, to Hamas, to trans terrorists, abortion industry activists. This is unacceptable. These are republic-ending tactics, what these Biden Democrats are doing with this lawfare and election interference. And the American people need to say, hell no on November 5th.
Yeah, now we find out today, I'll be covering it on my radio show tomorrow, the DOJ was going after Moms for Liberty, too. So, you're right. This is lawfare. Mike, last question. We got just a few minutes left, but kind of a two-part question. Your legal expertise here, do you think there's any chance, part one of this, that the Supreme Court, if God forbid there's a conviction on this fake crime, just pulls it immediately for due process violations? I've asked a few lawyers. They've all given me kind of the same kind of answer. But second, and is that the reason behind the left's ridiculous attacks on Sam Alito's flag and all this stuff? Are they trying to intimidate the Supreme Court to pass on this, to drag it out through the New York appeals process?
There's no question that they're doing this recusal nonsense with Mrs. Alito flying her flags that have nothing to do with January 6th. They're doing it to try to, not to cow Sam Alito. They know that he's rock salt and there's no way in hell he'll recuse. They're trying to cow the Chief Justice is what they're trying to do. They're trying to pressure the Chief Justice like they did with Obamacare. It's not going to work. These Biden Democrats made the tremendous mistake of going after Jane Roberts, the Chief Justice's wife, on her legal headhunting practice. She was a very successful litigation partner at a law firm, and she had to give that up when he became the Chief Justice, and so she became a legal headhunter. And so these Biden Democrats were stupid enough to go after her, which I think red-pilled the Chief Justice. I don't think that they're going to be able to cow him like they've done in the past, like with Obamacare. But I would say this, that it's very hard to go directly to the Supreme Court on any case. But if they try to put President Trump in jail before the election, or if they try to put him on home confinement or some sort of probation where he can't campaign for president, and if the New York appellate courts do not fix that immediately, I think the Supreme Court can and should step in.
That's great to hear from you, because I know you, like me, are a skeptic of this process, which has been failing us forever. I mean, a republic is about process, and it's all falling apart. Mike Davis, you never disappoint. You're welcome back anytime. We'll be reaching out again. We've got an open invitation to the show. The audience loves you. I'm reading the feedback now. They don't accept the Viceroy thing. They want you for Attorney General. I know Viceroy's better. I get it, but just digest that. Next time you come back, maybe we'll get a decision from you. Mike, thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate it. You're the best.
Thanks for having me.